Welcome into another edition of the CFF site's preseason series, College Fantasy Football Industry Influencers. On this show, I sit down with Justin Heisey. You can find Justin on Twitter at InsiderCFF. I've done some podcasts in the past with Justin when he was part of doing the podcast over at Fantrax, but I've never had a chance to do anything in video form with him. So this was a unique experience, different experience, and a chance for you guys to really put a face with the name and the personality behind Justin Heisey. And I say that because I asked him some college fantasy football questions in regards to draft trends over this preseason. But then I asked him some questions where we start going after some of the guys in our group. And then, once again, I'm observant to their surroundings, and I'll throw out a few extra questions. I can't wait till you guys see this one. Fun one with Justin. Let's get into it. I want to welcome in Justin Heisey. Justin, this is the first time you and I have done a video show together, so thanks for joining in. I know you have, you're amongst a lot of the guys in here that have participated in all four of our best ball drafts. We're going to have a gauntlet and kind of keep a cumulative standings of all four leagues, and we're going to have fun with it. So first of all, before we get started, just want to thank you for participating and being a member of this. It's certainly been a fun ride throughout the spring and throughout the summer. It makes our off season go by a little faster. And now with the season kind of getting started, we're going to get closer to producing some in-season content, but just want to thank you for participating. For those of you guys that haven't seen Justin before, you could follow him on Twitter at InsiderCFF. Justin, real quick, why don't you just kind of tee up anything that you're working on, man?
Just released a new set of rankings here recently. Had to update them yesterday. Big news cycle yesterday with the Miles Burton news, the Bentavious Thompson news, and the Brew McCoy news. So just got those freshly updated, and they should be good to go. And you can feel free, hop on there. Let me know how wrong I am about whoever I ranked too low. And yeah, that's pretty well what I got going on right now.
You probably got the wrong guy to jump on and tell you how wrong your rankings are, but I can tell you where you can find some of those guys, and you're probably going to hear from them in some of these interviews that I'm going to do, man. Hey, look, first of all, just, thanks again for being a part of it. The one thing that I really enjoy having you in, there's some personalities that we have in the text thread that whenever somebody, messes up, does something that annoys the group, you're one of the guys with the quick-witted comments. I appreciate that, man. That's something that I really enjoy about you. So hopefully we can keep that going on this interview, man. So let's get into it. I've got 10 questions for you. Everybody's getting the same questions. Nobody knows what's coming. So let's get right into it, man. You ready?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
All right, here we go. So first one, just sort of a general college fantasy football question. You've done the four best ball drafts with us throughout the spring and summer. You've probably participated in a number of mocks and other leagues as well. What are some of your biggest takeaways from all the college fantasy football drafts that you've participated up until this point this year?
The biggest takeaway for me, just personally with these best ball drafts, is I've learned that me and Nate and me and Kyle have some similar tastes when it comes to two specific receivers. In that if we were in the same drafts, their positional ADP goes up like 8 to 10 spots. And that's with Corey Rucker from Arkansas State and Devin Tompkins from Utah State. It seems like we're constantly in competition to get those guys on our rosters before the other guy gets to it. I look back today, and when Nate wasn't in the draft, I got Rucker like 8 spots later than he's normally going. And then the first draft we did, he ended up getting him in the 5th round, as compared to any other draft after that, because he went 3rd round anytime before that. There's a few guys that I've seen gone a little early. In my opinion, Jahmyr Gibbs has gone incredibly early. I think he's a very high upside player. If he gets the receptions that he does last year, then he's definitely more on the radar, because the expectation could be that his rushing numbers are also going to top out as well. But I can kind of think of Gibbs in the same way that you and Mike refer to Zach Evans in the Big 12 pod, in that it's one of those things where it's like, well, if they decide to ride with him, he's going to clear 1,000 by like a mile. But there's a lot of good running backs in that Georgia Tech backfield.
Yeah.
With Griffin and with Mason and with Gibbs all back there, it's hard for me to tie up with that horse, but like,
Yeah.
but
Go
also
all
mention,
in with Gibbs.
oh yeah. And then Georgia Tech's just got like a nightmare of a schedule. They have Clemson on the road, Notre Dame on the road, Miami on the road, Virginia on the road, and thank God they get the Bulldogs at home. It just seems like he's going a little bit early.
Well, the case that I've made about Jahmyr Gibbs is that I think everybody, first of all, there's two things sometimes that sway opinions and a little far to one way. One, the potential, right? I mean, he's definitely an exciting player. I think he's a Sunday player, right? So he's a pro prospect. The other thing is sometimes I think some guys put their dynasty chips a little far in the middle when it comes to redraft, and that tends to value him up a little bit in redraft leagues. Now, in full point PPRs, like you said, with catching balls out of the backfield, he's going to be incredibly more valuable in that. But I'm with you. I think he's going a little bit. For me, I haven't had a chance to get Jahmyr Gibbs because his value right now in drafts far exceeds his draft position ADP far exceeds where I have him valued.
Yeah. And it's no doubt not a question of talent, just a question of time. Share.
Anything real quick before we get into the next question, what you're noticing about trends, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, real quick?
I think that's all I got.
Yep. Okay. No problem. Hey, look, this is where some of the questions get a little fun. Based on your fantasy rosters that you have, who is a player that you need to have a big year? Like, you're just so invested in this player. He's the one guy you need to have a big year. Who did you put your chips in?
The only draft that I did not take him in was this last draft, but it was definitely the two that I would think that have to have a big year for me would be Brennan Presley of Oklahoma State and Talia Tagovailoa from Maryland, which I know that I probably said that, and there's some Big Ten people like, oh my God, I can't believe that's the guy he is expecting to go big this year. But like, Maryland's got one of their easier schedules that they've had in very recent memory. And so that's where I'm expecting Talia to come in, especially with Raheem Jarrett and Dante Demas really stepping up for them. And then Brennan Presley is a guy that I wish that I could get a little bit more reassurance from Mike because usually Mike is all over these Oklahoma State wide receivers. And I've not really heard him mention Brennan Presley a lot this offseason, which has me
the question is whether or not Mike's really good at his job, right? And so we'll see. see if I can work on that and press him a little bit for you and get some information on him. Now here's a fun one too. What player would you most like to see flop this year? Maybe one of your rivals have him. You just have nothing in him. Guys are overvaluing. What player would be a fun flop for you? In other words, hey, I knew that was coming. That's why I didn't take him.
Well, for me, a fun player for me to see flop, basically anybody who Chris took in the first round in any given draft. Fun player for me to see flop would be like one of the more higher up wide receivers, like Burks, one of those guys that, you miss on Bell, you miss on Boot, and still take a high pick, and it still doesn't end up panning out for whoever took them.
Yeah.
And of course, it's bound to happen. It happens every year. Wide receiver is one of the more difficult spots to have to go after. And then another one who I wouldn't mind seeing flop, basically to back my home position from last year, is Isaiah Spiller, because I was very against Isaiah Spiller heading into last season, and then he went crazy last season.
Yeah.
And so it'd be nice to get a little bit of credibility back from my Spiller take.
Well, here we go. All right. So here's the next question. And I wish I'd have gotten this earlier with Katz, because after I asked him this question, it was like he downed a drink. But my question to you is, beer or cocktail, or are you not an alcohol person?
Probably beer.
Okay. What beer?
I'm very simple. I haven't found my taste for IPAs or things like that. So basically I'm just like a Mick Ultra guy, which anybody can feel free to make fun of me for that. But
That's fine. That's fine.
yeah,
Do you swear, curse? Do you have a go-to curse word?
I try my best not to.
Okay, fair enough. Shit, I was gonna have some fun with this one. So here we go. And look, after I asked Katz that, and he realized, look, this is all, it's all in. Katz started dropping f bombs left and right. I was like, damn, I should have asked that question a lot earlier. So here we go. Let's get into some of the fun questions. Right, we're gonna get in the middle of this 10-question thing here. How many fantasy leagues do you play in total? College fantasy leagues, approximately. You don't have to give me an exact number, but how many do you play in? Do you know that exactly?
Oh, so this year is probably the most that I've been in. Right now, I'm in a trio of dynasty leagues,
Okay.
the 4 best balls that we've done, and I have an at-home league that I usually come in pretty high at from
So
year to
you're at
year.
least 8.
So at least 8, probably 8 to 10.
How many you're going to win this year?
Oh man, I'm just hoping to win whatever one that I have the most money in. That's the one I want to.
Okay.
That's the one I want to bring home.
All right. I was looking for you to give me like a 50% number. So here's the thing. On a scale of 1 to 10, this kind of reads me into the next question. On a scale of 1 to 10, rate yourself as a college fantasy football expert and give me some color around your context.
So if I had to rank myself around where I would be as a college fantasy football expert, I'd probably give myself like a nice 7, in that there are definitely people better than me, but I can definitely hold my own compared to some other people.
That's hey, that's fine. I love the fact that you're a self-proclaimed expert. I love, I say that because I'm trying to have fun with this question, because I have problems myself with the whole expert thing, right? I just kind of like, an industry guy, I'm good with that, but like, man, look, I miss a bunch more than I probably hit, right? So it's like, I think it's always funny when I see the word expert floated out there. I don't care if it's NFL fantasy, NBA fantasy. I just always get a kick in the ass when people use the college fantasy football expert. So you give yourself a nice 7. I think Katz was around a 7.6 or 8.6. I forgot where he was at. So it puts you in context of where he feels that he fits amongst the experts himself.
I usually like to give myself a little bit of a bump when I see some other people flop. Like if Katz wants to bring up the 7 or 8 range, I can kind of give myself a 9 if we're comparing ourselves for our takes on like Brandon Peters or guys like that.
Or when he said he was not big on Jonathan Adams last year, right? So I mean,
my gosh,
we could definitely hold his feet to the fire on that. Hey, let me ask you this. Here's a good one too. What is something that guys do, something that other fantasy owners do in fantasy drafts that drive you absolutely batshit crazy?
sometimes I'll see, like just for example, with this most recent best ball draft that we did, I have no understanding as to why Kyle drafted Caleb Williams. There is like zero understanding in my mind why Kyle drafted Caleb Williams. It's a best ball draft, and you're banking on an injury for a guy to get in the. You're banking on an injury for the guy to get on the field.
So what do you? I mean, yeah. I mean, what do you say to that pick? I mean,
well, I will say I didn't draft Talia in this draft. He could have took him this time because he went completely undrafted.
what about any other quirks or anything that happened in drafts, like guys draining clocks, wondering where anything like that kind of drives you nuts during the course of a draft, where you're like, where the hell this guy's been? We've been here for 10 rounds. Where has he been? Anything like that?
In our draft, in the most recent draft we did, it seemed like Eric and John being right beside each other took 5 ever for them to pick around the edge. Those two took a really long time. Like, Kyle, the Sultan of speed, is like the opposite of Eric and John over on those corners. And then, John always brings in the excuses like, oh, I have to teach a class. I have summer school. Yeah, those two tended to drag their feet a little bit. I guess we can give John the benefit of the doubt for helping to teach the future leaders of America or whatever. But
That's good.
And
That's
then
good.
I love cats.
So here's a question for you, right? Um, you know, we're going to go ahead and set some money aside in a separate pot. There's 10 of us that play in all 4 leagues, and we're going to come up with a point system and kind of figure out, who's going to win the gauntlet. We'll keep cumulative standings in all 4 leagues and figure out who had the best, I guess, 2021 season, right, of all the drafts, and figure out some point systems. Now, whether or not you win is one question, but who's the one guy that you definitely don't want to lose to? You want to finish above the standings, or you wouldn't mind seeing finish last place in these leagues?
I feel like most people would answer Chris for this question. I feel like Chris brings like a certain level of arrogance to the table. Kyle gets his bragging rights in the draft room. As long as he comes in with a 2-second clock at the end of everything, I feel like Kyle's happy. He could lose every amount of money that he has. But
Yeah,
it feels
don't you
like
feel that Kyle just, if he can get 6 guys to make selections within 10 minutes, I feel like that's as good as his first round pick hitting. Like, he gets super excited, right? I kind of wish I had a Kyle cam on when the draft room lights up all green during our slow drafts that we have a 2-hour clock on, and he's able to crack the whip and get 8 guys to pick within a matter of like 2 minutes. Like, I feel like he's cracking open a beer at that point.
oh yeah, really, especially at night when that sleep clock is just looming there. If he can get the whole draft room green, he's good to go. And I have to like commend Josh and his valiant effort to try to beat Kyle in the speed race there for fastest pick time, but I don't think he was ever able to do that successfully.
Well, here's the question. I mean, do the fastest pickers ever win the leagues? I don't know. I feel like Kyle wins he wins the draft Olympics, but whether or not he can win the league, we'll see. It's going to be fun to find out. Let me ask you this stuff. We're talking about a number of guys here. We've got 2 more questions. Both of these are fun. Have fun with them. And it may be a little bit, you might have already answered this, but who's the most annoying guy in the group? And put a little context behind that. What annoyed you? Anything? Come on.
There would be times now there would be times on my end where I would like think that I would know that I was on the clock but had things to take care of. And there would be the guys, like, it's primarily Kyle and Josh who are all over trying to get you to pick quickly. And it seemed like if it wasn't done within like that first 5-minute period, that it was like, oh my gosh, you're just taking forever. Can you please get in the draft room and make your pick? And it's like, dude.
Well,
I'm just
that's
like,
interesting because here's the thing. I don't know if there's anything that's more painful than us guys. Look, we do a slow draft. We've got a 2-hour timer, but when we conclude the drafts, no one averages more than 20 minutes a pick. It's a slow draft in theory, but we do 26 rounds, 12 owners in 2 days, which means that we move pretty darn good. I mean, we might stretch it out into a 3rd day. I think maybe the first one did, but for the most part, we do them in the first couple of days. And, it's funny. Kyle was sort of, he's sort of the kernel of the draft room, right? He sort of cracks the whip and gets everybody going, and then sends out those messages on Twitter to make you feel guilty because you have to eat dinner with your family, or you take your wife out for her birthday. And he's the guy that's going to make you feel guilty for setting aside, maybe 30, 40 minutes to do that. Right.
oh yeah.
So
Always.
here's a good one. We're going to end on this one, man. First of all, I want to thank you for participating. It's a good group of guys that we have in. I think the downside of it is that all of us are located all throughout the country. It would be great to just get together and have a draft. I know you guys have some things coming up with the Kings Classic that John's organizing, so it's going to be a really good chance for some of you guys to get together and have a draft. I'd love to be able to get all of us together in a room and have a draft, but we can always dream. And so the question I have for you is, you get a night out with the guys, but you can only take 3 guys from the group that we draft with you. Who are you taking? Where are you going?
Oh man, that'd be a tough one.
Yeah, I know, but got to hold you to the fire, man. Who you taking and where we're going to go, what we're going to do.
Well, if we're going back to a clock thing, like Kyle gets you to several different places that you needed to go on a time schedule with the way that he drafts. Personally, I'd love to Nate's just a guy that I've been able to like talk to and chat with a lot just personally. So like he'd make a good one, and I've spent like a ton of time with John just over the past several years.
Yep.
So it'd be nice to like just spend an evening with him, he'd have to turn in early.
Was
I
bedtime's
know
what,
there were
7:25 Eastern?
Oh my gosh. There'd be moments where we would be drafting and it's like, all right, guys, we got to get these picks in. It's almost 9 o'clock. It's almost John's bedtime. I
Yeah,
think
I
I
think 10 of
made,
us had to tag John in Twitter in the DM thread just to make sure. It's kind of like shaking him, making sure he's staying awake until 9 o'clock Eastern. So to make sure he gets a pick in.
yeah, it's like, hey, buddy, you still here? You still here? I know there was one time I asked Nate who had an earlier bedtime. Is it his daughter or John? And I never got a surefire answer on that. Maybe I will at some point later. But John would be a cool one just for all the time that we spent over the last several years. And Eric's been a cool guy.
Yep.
Getting to know him over the past little bit. Me and him have really bonded over professional wrestling. And so that'd be a really fun one to do.
Yeah, Eric's just Eric's he's into wrestling. I find Eric's into everything, man. He's got eclectic tastes, and he's old, so it'd be nice to get some good advice from him. He's a wise old fella. I mean, you're hanging out with the old guys if you're hanging out with Eric and John.
Yeah, but I guess it's just me, man. My perfect afternoon is just like a chill afternoon, hanging out, doing whatever. I'm not much of I'm not a guy that you're going to find at clubs, not a dude that you're going to find wherever else. I'm just a dude that's happy, spending my Saturdays watching football, going to a game, things like that.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, look, it is what it is. We didn't script any of this. Your comments and your comebacks on the thread are absolutely golden, man. I appreciate that. So keep the quick wit coming on all of our group stuff. You could be as boring as you want on the show and in your life, but keep the entertainment going on the thread. Justin, I can't thank you enough for coming in. It's nice to get all of you guys, and for some of you, including yourself, to just have a conversation with 15, 20 minutes and just do it in this format where we're talking a little college fantasy football, having some fun. It's just like doing it with a group of friends, getting all of you guys. We're doing them individually. We wanted to do a round table, but it's just too hard to get everybody in at the same time. And so, man, go ahead and put a bow on this, man. Anything that you want to get out, anything you want to say, and just kind of, I'll kind of toss it over to you to kind of end things, man.
Let's see. Let me run down my checklist really quick. I made fun of Kyle for drafting super quickly. I made sure to mention Brandon Peters one time before I exited the draft. I guess the last thing I'll have to mention is that, Joe, just between me and you, I would have liked to have gotten Emory Jones like at least once.
Yeah.
In these four drafts.
Yeah, I have a feeling Emory Jones is going to come up on every show that I do. My order, the one thing that I will do if I win these leagues is I promise you guys I will order an Emory Jones jersey and I will proudly wear it. But you're right. Nobody was getting Emory Jones, and after draft 3, it was like, hey, I might as well get him in round 2 and corner the market 100%. So sorry, Justin. Maybe next year you could put it up on that calendar that's behind you on your wall, which is a great spot for a calendar, by the way. Is that really a calendar that you've got pinned up there behind you?
Oh yeah, it's like it's just like a dry erase calendar.
I feel like that's a calendar you get when like the Girl Scouts come around, right? Or one of those businesses in your local area come around and they kind of hand them out for advertisement. Dude, I had to get one in before we got off of this show. That's for the Emory Jones comment. Anything else, man? It's been fun.
I would have loved to have gotten him at least one time. As another shot at Cats, I love that he built up drafting Davis Brin. In the last draft, he's like, are y'all prepared for this? And now I know someone had mentioned it's like, okay, this is probably one of the Stearns guys from Western Kentucky. In my mind, I was like, okay, this is probably Kendall Milton from Georgia. And then he's like, Davis Brin. I was like, Davis Brin hadn't been drafted at all any of these drafts.
Well, Kaz had us on the hook so much last year on Levi Williams that I think Davis Brin is actually an upgrade from what he's got. And you're absolutely right. I think Kat's already in dynasty leagues is drafting high school seniors that have committed to Western Kentucky already for next year. So
I'm sure he has. And,
anything else, man?
no, I think that is pretty well all I got. I'm looking at my notes here. I don't really think I have anything else to add.
That sounds good. Hey, what are you going to be doing between now and the season? Are you going to be throwing up rankings? Are you going to be doing any type of shows? What do you have going on for yourself?
It'd just be different things here and there. Finish out some conference previews. Of course, this being online, finish out some conference previews here and there. I'm trying to do an underrated fantasy player for all 130 teams in college football. I'm sure there's going to be a few on there that people look at and be like, dude, that's not an underrated player. And then I'm going to be like, it's Air Force. There's only so much I can do with this team. Yeah, I've got that coming out here pretty soon. But basically, other than that, you can find all the stuff I have to offer on at Insider CFF on Twitter. I do my best to keep up with all the transfer updates, player updates, things like that. As best as I can. Sometimes it just catches me and I'm out of town, or not out of town, but like away from my laptop to where I can make my pretty graphics and things like that. But
well,
yeah,
that
that's pretty
sounds
well
good,
you
man.
find
Hey,
me.
look, thanks for joining again. Like Justin said, find him at Insider CFF. Reach out to him, get on his calendar. He's got it posted up behind him. Justin, hey, look, man, thanks for participating. I really look forward to doing it again with you guys next year. And, thanks for joining in. And you have a lot of things to contribute to the industry, and we certainly appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate you having me here.
You got it, man.